A little while ago, I finished Dispatch, and I had a great time playing through it. The immense praise this game has got during and after its release is all pretty accurate. Dispatching is super fun and engaging, the voice acting is incredible all around, the plot is engaging, and this game can be very funny.
They temporarily blinded me!
You mean temporarily? You're blind forever.
The biggest part of this package is the choices. It's a decision-based game after all, and I spent a majority of it supporting Invisigal. I picked her as my romance option and supported her throughout most of the game, even when it felt like she could have ulterior motives. So imagine my surprise when I'm watching the credits and I'm met with the game telling me I neglected Invisigal, and get this lovely trophy telling me I failed as a mentor. This left me with a really bad taste in my mouth. I distinctly remember staring at the title screen, annoyed that the game would suggest I neglected the character I spent most of the runtime appealing to. This screen has been lingering in my mind for a while now, so I thought I'd make this video to explain my personal and very specific annoyance with Dispatch's bad ending. So throughout Dispatch, there is a hidden counter called the Robert Mentor counter. This determines whether or not you'll get Invisigal's hero or villain ending. I assumed this was the case when I finished the game, but was baffled on how I managed to get the villain ending. So for reference, let's go over each time I lost points with Invisigal to really grasp just how confusing I found my ending. In episode 2, I snitched on her. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I thought it was more of a matter of me being honest to Blonde Blazer than snitching on Invisigal. But fair enough, I'll say that's my error on that one. In episode 6, I said the plan to get the Astral Pulse was out of our league. But I didn't select that on purpose. I chose make a plan. The game didn't register my button press, and because there's no stay silent option in this game, the game picked for me. I could have gone back, but I didn't think it would matter much, so I just kept going. And my final piece of treachery against Invisigal was cutting her from the team, which I'll explain a bit later. So that's 3 negative choices I made which lowered my RMC. How many choices affect the mental counter in this game? 16! Now, there is more nuance than that. Out of those 16 choices, there are about 6 where you can't gain any points and you can only lose them. And obviously, there are some choices that have more of an effect on the counter. Like cutting her will make you lose 5, while snitching on her will only take away 1 from you. But even knowing this information didn't satisfy me, I still spent a majority of the game defending her and uplifting her, but because I cut her from the team, all that other stuff didn't matter. I untied her, I told her I cared about her, I even forgave her for planting the bomb in my suit, which gets you no points by the way. I thought there had to be more to it. There was no way me cutting Invisigal from the team doomed me to the bad ending. And as it turns out, I was right about that. Your choices are not the only thing that affect the Robert Mentor counter. In fact, there are 3 more components that do. The hacking mini-games, quick-time events, and dispatching all affect the count. Now, I nailed all the hacking mini-games, and I didn't mess up any important quick-time events, so that leaves only 1 area of the game that I slacked on. Then I realized, my first few dispatches, I flopped a good amount of missions with Invisigal, and you get a minus point every time you fail, which means I essentially cooked myself into getting the bad ending since I didn't have Invisigal in the final dispatching sections when I was better at the game because I cut her! So, did learning that dispatching counts towards the count make me more satisfied with my ending? No. It did not. If anything, it made me more annoyed. First off, how the hell am I supposed to know that dispatching mattered towards the story? I am very sure the game doesn't tell you this, and if they do, fair enough. You may say, oh well, it's a decision-based game about mentoring superheroes, of course dispatching matters. Which I would agree with if dispatching affected the story as a whole, but as far as I know, it only affects what happens to Invisigal. You may also say that this is a skill issue, and you aren't incorrect when you say that. I did suck at dispatching for a good half of the game, but I feel like I would have taken it a lot more seriously if I was told it affects the story even a little bit, even just like a little prompt at the start of the game, like just a little, you know, like don't tell me what it does, but like just a little hint, I don't know. Sometimes I would perform bad on a dispatch and think about resetting before telling myself, oh well, it doesn't matter anyways, it's just a fun gameplay loop, and then continuing on with the story as usual. Me being bad at dispatching also means that now to pick up my slack and still get the good ending, I would need to glaze Invisigal in every single dialogue option, which is just not how I like to play decision-based games. I prefer to be fair and say what I truly believe is right in each option, not appeal to one person because I think it will get me the better ending. When I really think about it, everything comes back to my choice to cut her in episode 7, which I stand by 100%. Hear me out. The Z team got together, had a conversation, and decided Invisigal has got to go. Considering the game forces you to cut someone else from the team in episode 2, I thought it was unjust of me to keep Invisigal despite her making a much bigger mistake. Coupe's error wasn't even doing bad, she simply wasn't performing as well as everyone else. How is that fair? The game forces you to cut someone and brings it up against you like it was your choice. You can tell Blonde Blazer you don't think it's a good idea, but you will still be forced to cut someone. So yeah, I didn't want to ignore the entire team's wishes because I like Invisigal, That's blatant favoritism and completely unfair. But when it all comes down to it, I think what really annoyed me was the wording. You neglected Invisigal. Even now, I can't believe the game could suggest that after I supported her for 90% of the options. You failed as a mentor. Guys, there were like 7 other people on the team. They turned out just fine. This game would have you believe Invisigal is the only one that matters on the Z team, which is insane to me. I've seen people saying that you missed the point of Dispatch if Invisigal embraces villainy, but I just can't agree with that. The bad ending is really easy to get. Even if you're good at dispatching, if every time you flop it happens to be with Invisigal, that in itself can net you the bad ending. I think labeling everyone who happened to get it as not understanding the game's message is just unfair. Overall, I really do love Dispatch. I was having a great time playing through it. That bar fight scene was one of my favorite scenes in anything I played last year. I couldn't find a way to mention that in the script, so I'm sneaking it here at the very end. I am honestly very excited for if and when we get a Dispatch Season 2, but I am just not a big fan of how Invisigal is handled in this game. And I don't even dislike her like other people do. I was really enjoying her for like a good half of the game. But as the title of this video says, this complaint I have is very specific and personal to my playthrough, considering how I still got the bad ending despite being excellent at the hacking, quick time events, and picking almost every positive dialogue option, but being rubbish at dispatching was my downfall. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you like how the Invisigal stuff is handled? Are you 50-50 about it? Do you hate it? I would love to hear more thoughts on this topic. But for now, this was my specific and personal annoyance with Dispatch's bad ending. I should have picked Bomblazer.